everyone. Jason Gilbo here with Rob Mazika, taking a look at tonight's three-game NBA slate. And overall, I mean, three games, all six teams definitely viable to use. You know, huge tournaments going tonight, so obviously we're going to talk about a couple of ways to be different.
Yeah, it's a three-game slate, so there's going to be guys with heavy ownership, like 40% or higher. So in these big tournaments, you don't want to have a 50, or even like a 100-way tie to win a tournament. No one wants to split a top prize. So tonight's a good night to play some guys who you wouldn't normally play.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you know, those $4 tournaments, good ways to take some shots in. And no injury concerns at the moment as of about noon Eastern time. So, I mean, we're good there unless something happens later on in the day.
Yeah, this is one of the first times all year where you won't see anyone on an injury report. So hopefully it stays that way the rest of the day.
Yeah, definitely. Point guard here, obviously, I think both in agreement, Westbrook. Price regardless, I mean, in a good spot against a Chicago team that struggles against point guards. For me, he's going to be just the first guy I lock in.
Yeah, he's been ridiculous lately. Last three games, over 60 fantasy points on FanDuel. It's just insane. DraftKings, his price is $13K. It's going to be pretty tough to fit him in. But his ceiling, it's 100. He could honestly score 100 points any night.
And that's the thing. Like 13K, like it's like, oh, okay, now they're starting to really make me think, and I just go through and go, oh, well, he scored 81 last time out, so I think he's kind of deserving of the price tag.
Yeah, and on FanDuel, he's only 12 for us, and it's easy to make a stars and scrubs team on FanDuel, so he'll be easy to fit in.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, I think kind of the cheaper options there, you know, all in play. I like, you know, both sides of that Knicks and Pelicans game. I think both guards. Rose, really nice price tag on DraftKings, 5,800. I know he's been kind of struggling a little bit of late. Hasn't reached 30 fantasy points in each of the last four games, but a great matchup for some upside.
Yeah, it's a great matchup for Rose. The Knicks they actually have the highest implied total on the night at about 110 points right now. And, I mean, Rose, he hasn't been playing well, but he's shown the upside if he can get you 40 fantasy points, 50 fantasy points in a game. And then the other side, Drew Holiday. Rose isn't the best defender in Holiday. He does well. He did well against the team the other day, too.
Yeah, I mean, and his assist numbers are always fairly solid. I mean, never a guy who's going to be a terrific scorer, kind of get into that 20-point range, but this is a guy who can, you know, come close to double-doubles with assists and points. So I think that one, I mean, Vegas is projecting that one to be pretty closely scored. And really, I mean, Holiday and Rose, I think, become really the secondary options tonight.
Yeah, and I think people will flock to Michael Carter-Williams for value tonight. And he's a decent play, but he could easily get into foul trouble guarding Westbrook tonight if he does guard Westbrook.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you and I were talking about before. I mean, this is a guy who has been kind of foul prone throughout his career. It does limit his minutes at times. But obviously a great matchup. I mean, we've been using point guards against the Thunder for quite some time this year. It would be an intriguing GPP play. And I think tonight really is more just a GPP night for me.
Yeah, definitely for me too. It's three games, and everyone in cash is going to have probably the exact same lineup, so it's really not worth it over there.
Yeah. The other game there, Dallas, Minnesota, Deron Williams, Ricky Rubio, both kind of secondary options. On FanDuel, there's at least a noticeable difference between the pricing between kind of the next two guys. But on DK, I mean, Holiday Rose 58.66, and then Williams 56 and Rubio 54. A little closely packed in terms of price. I don't mind them. I just don't think they have quite the upside in terms of Holiday or Rose.
Yeah, I agree. If I had to choose between those two, I'd probably lean Williams. But they both have decent floors in these matchups.
Yeah, I mean, viable options tonight just because three games. So, anyone else you're looking at point guard?
That's it for me.
Yeah, easy night. Shooting guard, and this is kind of similar to me. I mean, we get a couple of guys in that 6K range who are viable options tonight. And on DraftKings, you can have Jimmy Butler shooting guard if you want. But for me, I think Oladipo's in a good spot. But I really like Dwayne Wade and Zach LaVine as just kind of other guys to look at.
Yeah, shooting guard's terrible tonight. When there's a night without Harden or Antetokounmpo, like there's really no one to pay up for. So Wade's the most expensive guy. I don't mind him. Oladipo is probably going to be the highest owned out of all of them on FanDuel at least. And then LaVine, he's also pretty good too. He'll be high owned too.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, LaVine's always a guy who's just going to sit around that 30 fantasy point mark. And also, I mean, I like these Minnesota guys just because they're playing in that system. They're going to lock in 35 plus minutes, given that Thibodeau's there.
Yeah, and LaVine has shown upside lately. He's going to shoot probably about 14 or more shots in this game. So he's got the upside to score over 25 real points and have a good fantasy day.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, out of those three, LaVine, Oladipo, Wade, who's your favorite?
Whoever's gonna be lowest owned, and I'm leaning Wade. I think Wade will be the lowest owned of those three on FanDuel at least.
Yeah, I think so too. I like White tonight. I think, while we haven't seen the minutes there, obviously he played 38 last time out, but minutes before that have been kind of in mid to high 20s. I think tonight we see him get over the 30 mark and kind of play a pretty solid game because it's going to have to run through Wade and Butler to really keep pace with this Thunder offense.
Yeah, I agree there. And then another guy, a cheaper guy over on DraftKings. He's a shooting guard, small forward eligible, but Tyreek Evans, he's starting to get some more minutes, and he's hopefully he can get over 20 minutes tonight. And he's a pretty good fantasy point per minute scorer. So if he can get you maybe 22 minutes tonight, he should easily pay off his price tag.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen him 28 DK points against the Knicks earlier this season. If he's around that 20-point mark, this is a guy who can get you around 25 DK points, and at that price is huge right now, just because you may be looking to go kind of stars and scrubs, and Evans would be one.
Yeah, and I agree. And then another guy from the same team, Buddy Hield. He's a good value play on FanDuel.
Yeah, I don't mind him. Averaging about 25 points over the last couple of games. Minutes have been there as well, 27 in that span. So I think for me, I mean, he's going to be one of my favorite options to use just because minutes have been there, and also a decent matchup. I mean, Knicks are allowing the fourth most fantasy points to shooting guards this year.
Yeah, they're terrible at defending shooting guards. Just think of what Harden did to them on New Year's Eve.
Yeah, I mean, so Buddy Hield triple double. Let's watch out for it.
Yeah, I wish.
Right. Wes Matthews, I mean, he's a guy who's going to eat a lot of minutes. I think he's a safe option. We haven't really seen the upside of late, but I don't mind him just because it's 3 games tonight.
Yeah, he's just been so bad shooting the ball this season. I mean, hopefully his shot eventually starts falling, and when it does, he could easily score 25 real points in a game. It's just he's shooting last few games 3 for 12, 3 for 12, 5 for 14. He just hasn't been shooting well this season.
No, he really hasn't. And I mean, you look, I mean, obviously his peripheral stats really aren't there, but he's a guy, if he does get hot, I think we can kind of rely on him for at least getting above 20 plus FanDuel points and DK points regardless.
Yeah, I agree there.
So moving on to small forward, and Jimmy Butler, I think, is probably, a guy a lot of people gravitate towards. I'm looking at Melo, though. I mean, just a significant price difference. 2,000 less on DraftKings. So I think really there's a lot of savings to go with taking Melo over Butler.
Yeah, I really like Melo tonight, especially in this matchup against New Orleans. He's at home. New Orleans, they don't defend small forwards pretty well. He scored. He had a great game against them last week or 2 weeks ago. He had 44 on FanDuel against the same team. So he could do it again. It's just a matter if his shot's falling or not.
Yeah, I know. I mean, you look, his assist numbers have been up a couple bit, averaging 5.2 over the last 6 games. 6.7 rebounds. So I don't mind him tonight. I think, all formats he's basically in play. Points per dollar wise, I think small forwards, he's probably your top bet.
Yeah, it's either him or Butler, because Butler could definitely have an upside game against Westbrook, because Westbrook turns the ball over a lot, and Butler gets a lot of steals. So hopefully he can get maybe 3 or 4 steals and have an upside game.
Yeah, definitely. He's going to be probably looking to come out and shoot quite a bit. Andrew Wiggins, a guy who's been playing really well. I mean, averaging 24 points over the last 5 games. Another guy who logs in a ton of minutes. Just slightly cheaper than Melo. I think if you're going balance, I don't mind plugging those 2 in. I don't know if it's possible to do it with, Westbrook in your lineup, but I don't mind those 2 kind of going with a balanced approach tonight either.
Yeah, Wiggins, he has upside. He's a very volatile player, though, because if his shot's off, he's just going to have a terrible fantasy day. He can go 2 for 15. But then the other day against the Wizards, he went 16 for 30 for 41 real points. So he could score 40 real points on any given night just out of nowhere.
Yeah, Dallas really isn't a defense that I'm going to be shying away from, even though they're slower paced. I'm still fine with these Minnesota guys.
Yeah, he's still going to shoot a lot.
Yeah.
And then a value at the small forward position. My favorite value on the night is Doug McDermott. He's been getting over 30 minutes a game last 3 games, and he's really been getting involved in the offense a lot more lately.
Yeah, I like him a lot. I mean, just because I think even if this was a full slate, I'd be looking at him still. Like, that says a lot kind of about how he's been playing of late. Big part of the rotation now, 31 minutes per game over the last 6, averaging over 20 fantasy points. So I think him, I mean, probably going to be a chalky value as the day goes on and kind of more comes out about him. But I think he's the piece that kind of makes it all fit together.
Yeah, on FanDuel, especially if you want to have like Westbrook, Jimmy Butler, and like Towns or something, McDermott's going to be the value guy that everyone's going to plug in. So that'll probably drive his ownership up, but he won't be as high owned as like Carmelo or a Wiggins. He'd probably be around the same range as Wiggins.
Yeah, I would say so too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll say that. I mean, I'm not really on Harrison Barnes. I prefer Wiggins. I prefer just dropping down to McDermott. He's a guy that I would just be looking to kind of fade if I am fading people tonight.
Yeah, there's really not much at this position tonight that's really playable. Maybe like 4 guys who I'm really considering.
Yeah, definitely. Power forward, feel kind of the same. I mean, Anthony Davis, I don't quite know if I can pivot to him off of a Westbrook tonight in terms of just a pay-up option. It would be an interesting swerve. I think there are some viable ways to go with the Davis lineup tonight, but for me, I just kind of like dropping down to a Porzingis or going cheap.
Yeah, I agree with you there. He had an okay game against the Knicks last week, and he just doesn't have the upside that Westbrook has right now. So
Yeah.
I would just go with Westbrook.
And it's a guy who has played better at home than on the road this season, just in terms of kind of picking up his peripheral stats. But overall, I mean, obviously still in play, but obviously I think if you're building lineups, you're more leaning towards Westbrook.
Yeah, I agree. I like the other side of that game. I like Porzingis against Davis a lot. They met in the game they played. He had 47.9 on FanDuel. He's been playing very well since he came back from his little Achilles injury. Minutes are they're going to be back normal. He only lost maybe like 3 minutes in the couple games he's been back, so he has the upside to score over 50 fantasy points.
Yeah, no, he's been very solid. I mean, averaging 21 and 7 with 3 blocks per game since he's come back, and great matchup, great price difference. So I think overall, I mean, you can use those Knicks guys quite a bit. I don't mind plugging 2 of them in the lineup, just because, as you mentioned earlier, highest implied total on the night. Gorjai Dang, cheap guy that I'm looking at tonight. Dallas, not a good rebounding team. You know, Dang's not a big upside guy, but this is a guy who's just going to probably flirt with a double-double tonight, pick up a couple assists as well. He's probably one of my favorite kind of secondary, cheaper power forward options.
Yeah, I agree. He'll consistently hit his value. He does almost every single game. He doesn't really have 40-point upside that I want. But if I was playing cash tonight, he'd be probably a lock in my cash games just because of his consistency.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, other than that, it's pretty lonely down at the power forward spot. I mean, you know, we talked possibly Dirk Nowitzki there, 5,200 on DK. He's a guy who did see 30 minutes. Nikola Mirotic. I don't mind these guys just tonight because really we're not working with a ton.
Yeah, I like Mirotic an okay amount. That it's going to be an increase in pace for the Bulls tonight, and he could get some transition threes. And he does play a little bit better at home, shoots a little bit better. But he's a fairly scoring dependent player. He could get 10 rebounds, but if his shot's falling, he could really hit his upside.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and if he does, if the shots are falling, I mean, we did see 9 rebounds obviously last time out, but did play 33 minutes, up more than his usual average. So I don't mind him. I think tonight's kind of built for Mirotic because it is a GPP night, and that's usually where he always falls for me.
Yeah, I think he might end up being very popular once the come around lock time.
Yeah, definitely. Anyone else we forgot?
That's really it. Position. There's not much love here either.
Yeah, and then we get to center, and basically, I mean, for me, yeah, it's not fun. I mean, I was hoping we get at least another option. I mean, Karl Anthony Towns, I think, just takes you in a different direction when you're building your lineup. I mean, he's in play. I mean, Dallas is not really that great against centers for me. I mean, Bogut is tough, but I just think Towns is way too versatile for him.
Yeah, Dallas, they're the worst rebounding team in the NBA. Towns, he's a guaranteed double-double tonight. 2020 upside. It's just if you're paying up for Westbrook and Butler and Melo, it's just you might want to save the position. And a person who a lot of people are going to go to save would be Steven Adams, which I'm not arguing against by any means. He's in a good spot, but Chicago's a very good rebounding team. The numbers keep saying they're one of the best rebounding teams in the league. But Adams, he has shown 40-point upside on FanDuel, so he could have you a nice night.
Yeah, I think he's going to be the chalk center just because of the price tag tonight. And as you mentioned, I mean, good rebounding there in Chicago. You and I think have questioned it a couple times whether we really buy into it or not, but I guess that's what the numbers say.
Yeah.
But I mean, they rank 22nd defensive efficiency against centers. No one that really scares me off of them. In just that game alone, I mean, what do we say? Total jumped up, 3-4 points?
Yeah, it jumped up 3.5 points in the last 3 hours. So it's trending upwards. Adams is probably going to be the chalk position.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, in FanDuel, I mean, you threw out Bogut there, who's getting some minutes, 28 last time out. I mean, if you're looking to kind of just be extremely different and hope that he gets, hits his value and you can spend up at a couple other positions more than anyone else can, I mean, that's where you can be, a real difference maker.
Yeah, he's only 3,800 on FanDuel. I'm probably going to have a couple lineups at Bogut just to have a different lineup construction as the rest of the field. Before he got injured, he was scoring. He had 30 fantasy point upside a couple times. He flashed it. And he's finally starting to get his normal minutes again. So, I mean, if he can get the 10 rebounds and hopefully maybe get 10 points, I know it's tough for him to score against Towns, and he could get in foul trouble, but I really don't mind him as a value option in a tournament tonight.
No, I don't either. And especially like on a place like DK where you can use multiple centers if you want. I mean, and just because there's really no other options, we're looking at Towns and Adams, and that's about it. I mean, DK, you have guys like Dang, and you have, Towns who you can use a center or a power forward, Dirk, who's center eligible. So it's a little bit different. I think FanDuel, that construction is a little bit more limited at the center spot.
Yeah, and it is not a Hernan Gomez night tonight. I got to make that clear.
Did you get up and you're just –
it is not.
You just took a deep breath. You sat on the side of the bed and you're just like, not tonight, guys, not tonight.
I mean, he did have 15 fantasy points his last game out, but I don't think tonight's the night.
Nah, I don't think so. It's fully healthy front court. I mean, he's looking kind of back to his usual way.
I'll wait for Porzingis to get injured again.
Yeah. So, who's your favorite, non-Westbrook player? I think in terms of scoring, who are you looking for to have the highest scoring outside of Westbrook?
I mean, it's gonna be Westbrook, probably no matter what. But I want to hope for Melo, but it'll be tough. So it's probably just gonna be Towns.
Yeah, I think so.
He can get 20-20 in this game. I'm not saying he will, but it's his upside.
And I think with Towns, I mean, so I think the way we're talking, I mean, I think a lot of people are kind of going to think about him as just kind of being a contrarian pivot. I'm curious to see his ownership and how many people go that route. But it would be an interesting way, especially if you were going a bit balanced. I don't think it's a bad strategy tonight, even though, fading Westbrook isn't wise all the time. But, there are a couple good, cheaper shooting guards or point guards that do have some upside.
Yeah, definitely. And then Davis, he's always an option to be the highest scorer tonight. It's just with Westbrook on a slate, it's just Westbrook and then everybody else.
Yeah, it really seems that way right now. I mean, I think Jimmy Butler, I think we can see a somewhat repeat performance out of him as well.
Yeah. Who's your guy? Who do you think who could potentially compete with Westbrook? Butler?
Yeah, I think it's going to be Butler for me. I think just going back with the game flow of that one, I'm going to take his side. But I do like Towns. I think Towns is a sneaky option tonight.
Yeah. Tonight, we'll talk about approaches to the slate tonight. It's definitely a multi-entry approach because in these small slates, the line between, say, first and the cash line, it's very thin. So, like, you could be 2 points out of the money and only be, like, 15 points away from first place. And if you're having a single entry, if you're not doing something crazy and just hoping your entire team booms, it's going to be really tough to win a tournament tonight.
Yeah, I think so. And just given the fact that there's going to be a ton of ownership with these guys, and we could even see a night where it's like if you faded Westbrook, you might be in trouble if he goes off for just a stupid game. But yeah, I'm with you. I think multi-entry, get some coverages, play around with some different things tonight because I actually don't mind this as a 3-game slate. Usually I'm against small slates, but I don't mind this one. All 6 teams are viable.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't suggest like doing 100 lineups if you're not comfortable doing that. But I mean, 3 or 4 is probably just fine if you want to go that route.
Yeah, and I don't mind playing around with some game stacks as well, especially New Orleans and New York and OKC, Chicago.
Yeah, because an overtime game could really, really affect the slate.
Oh, dude, that would change everything. So
Yep.
That's going to wrap it up here. If you want to check out dailyfantasycafe.com, we'll have NBA content rolling out later today, and we'll catch you guys next week.
Yep, good luck, everyone.